Our next speaker has been with us for many years, has spoken for us, and very few people in our world achieved the level of business success that he has achieved. He was the founder of Curves International fitness chain, at one point the largest fitness chain in the world. And sadly, most people that reach what he has reached, they play it safe with their life. They don't stick their neck out. We have a lot of wealthy people in this country, and they're nowhere to be found in our, descent here. They crawl into their own holes. Not this person. He speaks out. He has spoken at our conference for many years. And beyond his business success, we all come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. So one thing I can say about this man is he is a good man. Sometimes when you meet people, you be like, oh, that's a good person. You could just tell right away. Well, that's this person right here. And you're going to notice that he speaks right from here, right from the heart. You're going to enjoy this. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Heavin.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? I was mentored personally by the great motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar. How many of you remember Zig? Yeah. So he taught me to always say, when someone asks how you're doing, great! And the reason he taught that was because just by saying it, there's a process where speaking it begins to go through your cells in something called intellectual osmosis. And as you begin to express yourself in a positive way, you begin to become that person. And it's really a fascinating thing. So I always answer, when you called Curves, by the way, there were 10,000 of them all over the country. And the woman that would answer the phone would say, "It's great to be at Curves. How may I help you?" And it became our trademark. So millions and millions of women all over the world were introduced to Curves with that phrase. And of course, the idea was to give them an opportunity to truly become great, to have a strong heart, strong muscles, strong bones. And I'm really proud of that accomplishment. Now, I want to thank Dr. Paul and all he's done. He had a birthday the last few days. Now, we would sing happy birthday to you, but the copyright on birthday is about 25 grand. So we can't sing happy birthday to you. But everybody, happy birthday, Dr. Paul. It's my great privilege. I'm a high-time pilot, so I fly my jet into Lake Jackson and pick him up and fly him here so that he didn't have to get on an airline. Anybody been on the airlines lately? Oh, my gosh. Yeah, many of you came here that way. So it's a great privilege for me to serve him in that way, and as he serves us by fighting the fight and he's a great example, and so I'm proud to know him, and I know that many of you are as well. This organization requires funding, and so I would appeal to you to write a check to support what they're doing. I don't know if you've noticed, but Dr. Paul, even though he's a year older, has been on more. There's a Rumble now, so you can watch him almost every day, which is really cool. But how many of you saw him on Tucker? Okay. And by the way, I'm really proud of Tucker. He is a voice in the wilderness, which is so exciting right now to see the numbers of people that listen to him explain things. All sorts of interesting things, by the way. The courage he has. But his interview with Dr. Paul was really odd word, but precious. He treated this man with the dignity and respect that he deserved, the reverence, and and allowed this great man to articulate some of the issues of our time to a very, very big audience. So we need to support this organization, and I do, and it's a worthy investment. So what a tough act to follow, Dr. McCullough. Oh my gosh, this man, and by the way, I'm a big fan of his. He didn't know that till I cornered him yesterday to get my picture taken with him. And we got to know each other, and he's given me the great honor of working with him on bringing, and he corrected me this morning. I always say wellness, and he says, no, that sounds like a spa. And he was right, so I'm going to have to change that habit of so many years. But health to the masses. And the technology that is available now, AI, in a good way, by the way, is available to counsel at almost no cost billions of people. And then as the needs are greater, then you have coaches and then up to the physicians. And this works for everybody, because not only is health information and guidance available to the masses, which we desperately need right now. 74% of the American population is overweight. Half of them are obese, and 10% are morbidly obese. So we are suffering as a country. And Dr. McCullough, I'm proud to say, he was the most banned man on the internet for misinformation. That's pretty cool. Yeah. What a badge of honor. So having been a big follower of him, and by the way, I have a degree in health and nutrition. I've written 2 New York Times bestsellers and so forth. But I have learned more from this man's information that comes out every day, free of charge, than I have throughout my career. And thankfully, we're all beneficiaries of his graciousness and his intelligence. And we're really glad you're here today. Judge Napolitano, wow. Was he on fire today? This organization draws people of that caliber. And I don't know if you've watched his program lately, but he's got Douglas McGregor on there. He's got Scott Ritter. All of these people that are telling the truth that is being censored by all the other media, particularly about Gaza. And we've had and by the way, I'm not even looking at my speech here, so which is the way I prefer to do it. We have had a really interesting division of Christians since the Gaza situation. I was a Christian Zionist. If you bless Israel, be blessed. If you curse Israel, be cursed. But I started to see genocide in front of my very eyes. The mass killing of children and women. They're talking about 40,000 people, but that's the Lancet came out with probably a truer number a week or so ago, and it's over 200,000 Palestinians have been genocided. And what's interesting, there may be some Christian Zionists in this room, and I understand, I was one, but truth is truth. And I have the ability to see evidence. In fact, how many of you would consider yourself critical thinkers? Raise your hand. And why I love speaking here is I feel like I'm surrounded by like-minded people. And it gives me really the freedom to just tell you the way things are. And by the way, I have no books to sell. I don't need your money. And I don't have a job to lose. Okay, and I have enough money that we had a speaker here who wrote The Black Swan and Skin in the Game. I got to have breakfast with him, fascinating guy, 3 PhDs. And in his book, Skin in the Game, he said, if you're going to speak up, when you're somebody like me, you need FU money. Guess what? I got it, and I've had to use some of it for things I've said But you know what? If somebody like me, who has the resources and it doesn't have a job to lose, if I don't speak up, who's going to do it? So it's my responsibility to tell you the truth. And the truth about Gaza is there is genocide going on right in front of our eyes. And, you could call that anti-Semitic if you want. By the way, an anti-Semite used to be someone that hated the Jews. But today, an anti-Semite is someone the Jews hate. I don't hate anybody. I'm a Christian. In my form of Christianity is love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness. Now, I don't always achieve that level, but that's my goal. That's what I aspire to. I used to tell my franchisees, look, here's the deal. And keep in mind, I had 10,000 franchisees all over the world. We were the 10th largest of all franchise companies in the world, and certainly the largest fitness franchise company in the world. But I used to tell them, look, here's the deal. I'm going to create an opportunity for you, but you're going to have to do the hard work. And if you do the hard work, the opportunity has proven itself, and that's the only promise I'm going to make. I'm just the opportunity creator. A lot of people thought that I was going to run their business or that I was going to come and do the work that they weren't willing to do. But it was fair. And that's really all that I had expected from people. But I would promise them, see, look, there are these biblical values that I'm going to aspire to, and I want you to hold me accountable to. And one of them is honesty. Tell the truth as best you can. Integrity, which is to do what you say best you can. Then there's the power of unity. When two or more agree, they can go much further together than they can as individuals. And then there's the law of greatness. He would be greatest would be the servant of the others. That's the example Jesus gave us. He served us. And so I tried to lead this huge company by doing everything I could to assure the success of my franchisees, my employees, and my members, the millions of them who aspired to get control of their weight and their health. I used to say these were Judeo-Christian values. And then I read the Talmud. Boy, that's a tough statement to say publicly. Okay? But if you ain't ready yet, you're operating from a lack of information. Now, thankfully, most Jewish people are fine, normal people. They're not Talmudists that believe in the superiority of that tribe and the inferiority of everybody else. See, I personally don't think I'm in a human body without a soul. I think I'm a child of a God who created me in his image. He loves me, has a plan for me to prosper me. And I believe that each of you have that same value. That's my view of things. So I love people. And but we have to speak up, guys. There's a lot of evil in the world. And those of us that have been given a voice and the resources, it's our duty, right? So let me jump back into my speech here, okay? Little girl tells her mom, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to be a Democrat. And the mom says, I'm sorry, honey, but you can't do both. Little boy tells his dad, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be for world peace, and I'm going to vote Republican. And his dad says, sorry, son, you can't do both. So there is no political solution for what's going on right now. Would you all agree with that? And this idea of fair and free elections, okay? That's the new oxymoron in this country, okay? And let's just take a little peek at what's going on right now, okay? So Kamala comes out of nowhere as a leading contender in this presidential race, okay? We watched it with our own eyes, right? It was amazing. Well, you know, the powers that be control all the mainstream media. That's no joke anymore, right? I mean, that's just so accepted, certainly by everybody in this room. So they decided that they were going to make her a contender. And so they began to run polls and publish the polls. Even Fox News had her ahead in the 6 swing states, okay? So that was the setup for what's coming, because what's coming is the great steal. How many would agree with that? Okay, almost everybody here. Well, why would we draw that conclusion? Well, we just watched it in 2020. What changed since 2020? Nothing. You know, the Republicans of all, just quiet, let it happen. Democrats certainly have furthered it. Nothing's changed. Now, you don't have to be Yogi Berra to predict this. For you younger guys, Yogi Berra said, it's really difficult to make predictions, especially about the future. So I'm going to make a prediction right now, okay? The Dems are going to steal it again, okay? I'll put money on it. There are no free and fair elections in this country. Now, how easy is it? Let's think about it. They don't have to cheat the whole country. All they have to do is cheat in 6 states. In fact, only about 15 counties. They have a machine of vote counting and ballots and things that's better than it was in 2020. And we've done nothing about it. And then, of course, the algorithms and electronic voting machines, you know, they've got that down as well. And by the way, I'm friends with Mike Lindell, my pillow guy. Yeah, he spent $40 million of his own dollars trying to expose the election fraud in this country, and now he's almost broke as a result of it. He was banned on Fox and all these other places, thrown out of Bed Bath & Beyond, right? And by the way, how's Bed Bath & Beyond doing? There is a God. So the idea that we're going to have a free and fair election here in the coming weeks is just naive, right? So we can expect to get Kamala as the new president. It really doesn't matter that much because she's not going to be making any decisions any more than Biden did. She's going to be a puppet who does what she's told by the true people that are in power. The blob, it's kind of a new word for it now. There's a blob of people that really make the decisions in this country. And I'll give an example. We have had almost, maybe all, of our institutions captured in this country, okay? Let me give you a list of them here real quick. National Institute of Health, okay? CDC, okay? These people came out and said that this genetic injection is going to be safe and effective. But we don't want to release the data for 75 years. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. When they came out and said, we don't want you to see the data for 75 years. I don't know how many red flags you guys need. That's all I needed, you know. I knew that Pfizer was a corrupt corporation, has had more criminal, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? But 75 years, nah, I think I'll pass on it, right? Even the governor of Texas, you know, I called him, he's a friend of mine, when they approved the vax for the 5 to 11-year-olds. And I said, Governor, and my wife was listening on speakerphone, so you can appreciate this. Governor, if you let them vax our children, you're going to be among those few that know the price of your soul. My wife's going, he just told that to Governor Abbott. And of course, Governor Abbott let them come in. And our medical board is still prosecuting this wonderful female doctor, Browder, today because she prescribed ivermectin. And by the way, she had 6,000 patients and didn't lose a one, and they're trying to take her medical license, while our governor stands down and let it happen. This is crazy stuff, guys, but it's reality. Let me hit a couple other things here. We just witnessed the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Okay, it wasn't a lone gunman. Come on, they've run that, that whole story so long. It was an organized effort by deep state to eliminate Trump. He just happened to turn his head. Now, my point on this is important. My point on this is that the day it happened, I'm good friends with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, and we have a Sunday phone call every week, and it's supposed to be an hour, often ends up at 3. And so we were talking that day about the narrative, okay? What's the narrative going to be? And so before the head of the Secret Service came before Congress, we already figured the narrative out. It's going to be incompetence at the Secret Service and understaffing. And of course, the Kamala thing came out, which took over the news cycle, sucked all the air out of it. And we've all just they tried to kill, in America, the leading presidential candidate, and we're not even talking about it anymore. That's how powerful they are. But you know what? We don't have to stop talking about it. We need to be shouting it. These bastards think they're powerful enough to get away with the assassination attempt. And by the way, there's no political solution. I happen to have met Trump twice and have had a privilege of a couple of conversations with him. He's really a nice guy when you know him. In fact, we both worked the F word into our conversation within 30 seconds. Whatever that's worth. He's kind of the real deal. Now, is he perfect? Yeah, who among us are, right? Is he less perfect than a lot of us? Yeah, probably. but he's certainly the lesser of the two evils. This country is going to collapse. And it's going to collapse by design. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you today. Collapse needs to come. Societies go through cycles. It's a Kondrattian cycle where we go from slavery to freedom and then back to slavery, or the book out there, The Fourth Turning. These things are really pretty natural. And we have a choice, guys, to put our heads down and close our eyes. Now, I'm kind of okay with putting your head down, but not with closing your eyes. Get your head down, but keep your eyes open. Why is it important? Well, if you're among the few that are actually paying attention and thinking well, and by the way, let me define my definition of critical thinking. The mind is a microscope whereby you analyze, you look at the evidence, and from that evidence you make a rational conclusion with actionable results. That's kind of our responsibility as critical thinkers. And the problem is the mind, as a microscope, has to be focused. So if you're looking at stuff, if you're looking at evidence from the left-right perspective or paradigm, or the liberal conservative, or whatever it is, your microscope is not focused. It's not looking at evidence. So I'm going to invite you to look at things, though perhaps the way a lot of these people in this room do. Okay? Our country has been captured. I started to read some of these. FBI, Secret Service, Justice Department. There's another oxymoron now, right? Okay? In the media. Now, it's uncomfortable to come to the conclusion that we've lost our country, that we've lost our institutions. But you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. if you're going to be a critical thinker. And that's what I'm inviting you to today. Adjust that microscope of your mind to the correct paradigm. Okay? We're in a mess. And I don't know if y'all saw the movie. One of my favorite movies is We Were Soldiers Once and Young. And those of you that have been in the military know what I'm talking about. These Vietnamese, they were in Vietnam, American soldiers, and they were being overrun by a North Vietnamese division. And what he did was he called Broken Arrow. And Broken Arrow means fire on us because we've been overrun. That's almost where we are right now, guys. We have been overrun. Now, that sounds bad, right? But when you consider all of the things that are broken in our country, the medical model, and Dr. McCullough spoke about it, we have a medical model in America that practices illness, not wellness or health. And it's broken. When COVID began, they polled the Americans, and 70% of Americans had faith in their doctors. And today, they've polled them, and it's 40%. Well, you know what? I think it's for pretty good reason. When 90% of the doctors thought injecting this bioweapon into your body was a good idea, I think I would start to question science as well. And you know what? If you're thinking well, then you don't get sucked in to something that can harm you. That's why it's so important. And of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you guys, which is one of the great things. And I think one of my goals here today is to say things so that you will have permission to say those things to your family members in your community. Because when you hear somebody else say it, it kind of gives you permission to say it and to not be uncomfortable with it. Couple more things real quick. Open borders, okay? People think that is so they can get more Democratic votes, okay? And yes, that's true, but that's only a byproduct. Open borders is to bring down our country. Cloward and Pivens were professors at Princeton in the 70s that were Marxist, and they wrote all about this. They said, if you want to bring down this country, then you've got to overwhelm the systems. So the open border is not about Democratic votes necessarily. It's about overwhelming the court system. It's about overwhelming the school system, the medical system, the welfare system. That's what it's about. These people that have hijacked our institutions have an agenda. And their agenda is three things. Number one, it is to control us. And look at COVID. Look at being locked down and wearing a face diaper and having a vaccine passport. Okay, man, they're really good at this stuff, and they've not stopped yet. Before Dr. Zelensky passed away, he was the Hasidic Jewish physician, who, by the way, did his best to save as many people, Gentiles and otherwise, as he possibly could before he died. President Trump followed the Zelensky protocol. Well, I had a great, wonderful hour discussion with him. And he and I were debating whether it was going to be smallpox that they come up with next or Ebola. What a crazy conversation to be having. Well, now we're saying maybe it's monkeypox or some other nonsense. How many of you, and by the way, they've declared a monkeypox emergency already in this country. How many of you are rushing to your doctor to get the monkeypox vax? Come on now, where's your patriotism? And that's the good news, because so many of us have said, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This is in fact preposterous. And so don't count me in has become a much more common position for Americans than we've had before, and I'm thank God we're there. But we're not there completely. You still have I call it the Pareto principle. Remember the 80-20 rule? 20% of the people pay 80% of the taxes, right? 20% of the sales force makes 80% of the sales. Well, I think America's a lot like the Pareto principle. 20% of us are willing to speak up. I mean, we can see the evidence. You know, and we're not afraid of being ostracized or somebody calling us names or whatever, and we speak up about it. But unfortunately, 80% of the people are keeping their heads down and are staying quiet. And a lot of the reasons is they're vested in the current system. Their job depends on it, their status in their community. But here's what happens when things begin to collapse. Those 80%, as that system they're relying on begins to collapse, they begin to consider their vestment, and it begins to be open. Now the problem is, those of us that have been talking about the truth, we need to have our argument, our evidence down clearly if we're going to capture those 80% when they become teachable. And by the way, people are teachable only after they suffer sufficiently. And there's going to be much suffering in this country as things collapse. And by the way, do you believe that I'll tell you this way. So, you know how you know when a man is a pilot? He'll tell you. So, you know how we know the globalists are trying to diminish sovereignty and nationalism and bring on a global government? They tell us, right? So, you know, I'm not making this stuff up. They're telling us, you know, stuff like, you know, the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, Davos billionaires, IMF, they're telling us. And what are they saying? You will own nothing and be happy. Okay? Everybody's heard that, right? How about this one? You will eat the bugs. Okay? And then this other one, build back better. Okay? So guys, they're telling us what they're doing, and if you're uncomfortable with that, and because if you're not comfortable, you want to pretend you're not hearing it, well, you're among the 80% that are doing just that. But those of us, particularly those of us that are children of a living God who has given us authority, we're his emissaries. Okay? We can't keep our head down and stay quiet and let the enemy continue to take ground. So let me close on this. Now that I've terrified you. What can I do? Well, there's a choice you're going to make. You can cower or you can act in courage. Again, 80% of Americans are cowering in fear. You know, they inject themselves with a bioweapon so that they aren't different. And by the way, psychologically, people would rather be wrong than different. Isn't that interesting? So, if you come to terms with the realization that we're in a mess, and instead of fighting and fighting and fighting, and believe me, I fight. This is my fight, money I spend and so forth. But I'm not naive. As Daniel spoke earlier, Daniel said that we're winning, but we're going to suffer. We're going to have great damage from what's coming. So that's that's the reality of this thing. So if we can't fix this mess, there is a lot that we can do, and we can speak up and protect our resources. We can seek knowledge. We can think well. So many things. We can support organizations like this. And one day your children or grandchildren are going to ask you, Dad, Papa, What did you do? And the more of us that have the courage to speak the truth, the more we can minimize the damage to ourselves, our families, our communities, and our freedoms. And then, just maybe, it will be us that will build back better. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.